Chris, given the length and then size of the field that we're dealing with this week, is there how do you go about betting a race like this? Is it completely different than when you're betting a race with 17 horses when it comes to trifectas and stuff like that you're betting?
It is a little bit different, and I think the main difference is in the quality at the top of the field as opposed to the depth of the field. You've got the Derby winner, Sovereignty. You've got the Preakness winner, Journalism. You got Baeza, who was third in the Derby. It's very unlikely someone other than one of those three horses is going to win. So the way I'm going to approach the race and the way I handicap a race like this is I'm going to have to just take a shot with one of these horses, stand firm. That's my pick, and maybe try and get the other one out of the trifecta. Maybe you get Hill Road in there for a spot in the trifecta. Maybe Rodriguez hangs on for a spot in the trifecta. So if you can pick the winner of those three horses that you like, and then maybe throw one of those horses out of the trifecta for third, that's probably the way to go. But I like Journalism in this race of the three horses. I think the fact that he is the most versatile of the horses. I think the fact that he came out of the Preakness obviously in great shape. That was an unbelievable win that he had. I was a little surprised he came out of it so well, but he looked so good on the track. And I think maybe in the Derby, he might have been a combination of moving a little too soon, hitting the front a little too soon, and then Sovereignty really pointing towards that race. So if you're asking me to pick between those two, Sovereignty and Journalism, I do think Journalism at this distance on this track with this potential pace scenario of not a super fast pace up front, I do think Journalism has the edge on Saturday.
Yeah, so the horse I like on top is the number 7 Journalism. And if you guys haven't watched the Preakness Stakes, go back and watch it. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. The horse gets stopped, and Samich and I are live on the air, and we're like, oh, this is a disaster. We're getting ready to just roast jockey Umberto Rispoli. And then Journalism re-rallies and wins the race in incredible fashion. So number 7 Journalism on top for me. I picked him to win the Kentucky Derby. Unfortunately, he gets second. I did pick him to win the Preakness, so he wins there. So I'll pick him again in the Belmont. All three races, I am going to pick him. I think he's the most consistent horse. I think, overall, he is the most talented horse. He's pretty tactical, and what I mean by that, if the racetrack is playing to speed, he can sit 2 or 3 lengths off of it and still be okay. And then if it's going really fast and it's favoring closers, he can sit a little bit farther back and be okay as well. So I like number 7 Journalism on top. I do like number 6 Baeza in second. I think he's very interesting. So he's a horse that is developing late. He got going kind of late into the season. He didn't win his first race until February. He didn't run in his first stakes race until April, where he only lost by 3/4 of a length to Journalism. Came back in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, 19 horses. This horse was kind of in another world based on what he had been facing before till now. He didn't get the best of trips. He still re-rallied. He almost got second. He just missed second by just a bit. So he's getting better. Out of the 8 horses in the race, he's the one that I could see improving the most here. And if we do see that improvement, I think he's right there where not only can he hit the board, he can win. So the 7 Journalism, the 6 Baeza, that's the 2 horses I like. I do have Sovereignty, the number 2 horse in third. My worry with him in this race, when you look back at the Kentucky Derby, the pace was so fast, and that really helps horses that are coming from the back. I don't see that fast of a pace setting up here for the Belmont, and that has me a little bit worried about Sovereignty. Now, again, though, how we were talking earlier, if the track comes up sloppy, that does elevate him for me. But if it's just a fast track, I like the 7 and I like the 6.
The way I'm going to approach it is I don't think it's a race where you're going to make a ton of money. I'm going to have a big win bet on Journalism. I think he's the best horse in the race. I think Sovereignty was kind of pointed towards the Kentucky Derby and ready to peak that day. The fact that Journalism is here and running the way he's looked on the track training, it looks like he is no worse for the wear from the Preakness rather, and in fact looks like he's ready to run a great race. I think the fact that he can lay a little bit closer to a pace scenario where it's not going to be as contested, as fast as it was in the Kentucky Derby. You're probably going to have Crudo up front on the lead, Rodriguez, Bob Baffert's horse up on the lead, and I don't think it's going to be a lightning fast pace, and I think Journalism's ability to lay a little bit closer to that pace really is going to allow him to get first jump on Sovereignty, get first jump on Baeza, and ultimately hold those 2 off this time. to win the race. So I'm gonna bet Journalism to win. I'll probably bet a Journalism Sovereignty Exacta, and I think if you want to put a couple of bucks on a trifecta where you put Journalism on top, Sovereignty and Baeza in second, and then maybe in third you put Hill Road or Rodriguez somewhere along that line to try and get one of those top three choices off the board to maybe add a little bit of value.
You talk about the track there, Chris, and there are going to be some people who are tuning in right now that don't know the difference between this and any of the other races that are going on. So what does Belmont bring differently to the table than what we've seen so far?
Well, typically the Belmont Stakes, the third race of the Triple Crown, is the longest at 1.5 miles, usually run at Belmont Park. The Kentucky Derby's 1.25 miles. The Preakness Stakes is a little bit short, 1 3/16. And now you're looking at a Belmont Stakes up at Saratoga at the classic distance of 1.25 miles, which I think is pretty good because the 1.5 mile race in the Belmont is really a distance that only exists for the purpose of the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown. There's only one other graded stakes race, I believe, that is run at 1.5 miles. So the fact that it's going to be at 1.25 miles, the same distance as the Derby, it's a bit more of a truer test of racing. So and it can play both ways. It can play to speed horses. It can play to stalkers. It can play to closers. So it's a very fair distance and a very good test as to who ultimately will potentially win the best 2 out of 3 here between Sovereignty and Journalism.
With Sovereignty and Journalism going head-to-head here, and I know that's the way it's being built, even though you like Baeza to get that second spot here. Is this good? Does this generate some of that conversation and or revenue in the betting space that we do want to see Sovereignty and Journalism and figure out who is the best horse here in 2025?
I absolutely think it's great. We need rivalries in racing. We honestly, for horse racing, just to put it bluntly, we need a reason for the casual person to want to tune in to watch the races. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem with horse racing. The niche audience, they're all about it. Like me and like Mike Somich, like we're in it 24/7, right? But for other people, they kind of need a reason to get nudged, to get pushed into watching it. So when you think about Sovereignty versus Journalism, number one, all the casuals watch the Kentucky Derby, right? So that's fresh in their mind. Man, Sovereignty, he was great. And usually the casual person, whether it's a bettor or a fan that's going to be a bettor on these big days, they love a closer because they're exciting. They're like 15th up the backstretch and they close in to win. And so people really like him. And then you've got Journalism, who ran well in the Derby and then did this incredible thing in the Preakness where he's kind of attracted new fans. And now we're getting that rematch. So I think in horse racing terms, this is really what we wanted. I feel like if we were missing one of these two horses in this race, it would not have the same kind of feeling. But since we've got them both, and even people that are in the horse racing space, we're kind of talking amongst each other going, wow, yes, a Triple Crown would be more exciting. However, getting this rematch, it's kind of one of the more exciting Belmont Stakes that doesn't have a Triple Crown on the line than I can remember, at least in the last 10 or 15 years. So I think it's absolutely great they're both here, and hopefully it's a rivalry that just kind of keeps going throughout the summer.
You're going to have the people come in, and they're going to throw in Heart of Honor or Uncaged or whatever it might be at those big numbers like that. But this race a little bit different from the Derby because there is a little bit more variance with the 20 horses and what kind of start do you get and can you maneuver through the giant pack? And with only 8 horses, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it actually does some of the longer shots a disservice, right? Because it actually does favor the horses that are just better, right? It takes some of the variance out.
Absolutely. If you're leveling, evening out the playing field and taking some of the potential risk and traffic difficulties out, odds are the better horses in the race are going to be there. The Crudo, a newcomer to the Triple Crown Trail, owned by Bobby Flay, he's going to be on the lead, but I don't think he classes up. The horse Rodriguez, Bob Baffert's horse, that scratched out of the Derby due to a foot issue, he is back. He potentially could fall into a spot where he maybe inherits the lead, but is he good enough to beat Journalism? Is he good enough to beat Sovereignty? I don't know. The horse in the race that seems to be the now horse is Baeza. And you need to take kind of I think there's 2 different approaches that you can take with Baeza. I think you can take the approach that he has the most upside of any of these horses in the race, being that he's only raced 5 times and he's finished second out in the Santa Anita Derby. He ran third in the Kentucky Derby. He can improve off the 5-week layoff and potentially get his picture taken in the winner's circle. Or you can take the point of view that, okay, he was 15-1 in a maiden race at Santa Anita against Rodriguez, and he wasn't within 10 lengths of Rodriguez that day. You can take the point of view that he was 14-1 in the Santa Anita Derby and couldn't hold off journalism, and journalism went by despite having a terrible trip. And then you've got the opinion of, okay, he was 15-1 or whatever it was in the Kentucky Derby, and he couldn't beat either journalism or sovereignty. So, like, why would you bet him on Saturday at 4-1 or so at like a third of the odds that he was in those races? So it depends on whether you're a glass half empty, a glass half full guy on base. I tend to lean towards fading him and trying to keep him out of the try.